Hello my brethren, I hope you're all well. I want to talk about the nature of male to female relationships. Specifically, I will focus on these three parts. The lust that occurs at the beginning of a relationship, let's call it, the love that occurs later on, and also the hate that occurs inevitably in the majority of relationships. All I'm going to do is talk about my personal opinion on these things, and it's going to be biased as I'm only sharing my personal opinion. It's going to have a few things that MGTOW men might question, but just listen to what I have to say and leave your criticisms for the comment section. The last stage for a man is a stage where his love has not been realized. I mean, sure, at times men who are slightly less experienced confuse their lust for love, but love occurs later on. But at the initial stages, what you have for another person is lust. It's the excitement of experiencing that new pussy. We assume that this part does not exist for women, but it definitely does, and it happens slightly later on. I believe it lasts a lot longer than that of the man's, because for a man the natural drive takes over, and for a woman that drive only lasts as long as that man is the best thing that she can get. Therefore, a man might grow tired of that pussy a lot faster, but he will still have sex with it, but a woman will only tire of the man when she feels that there is something better in the vicinity. The lust for a woman is towards something that many people want to have, like a bag that's expensive yet quite meaningless. However, the lust for a man is similar, and generally a man will lust after someone that a lot of other men will equally lust over, but arguably lust seems to be a constant operating mode for a lot of the men, and that is because men have a much higher libido than women. Yet from one to action there is a big difference, and growing a bit older now, I have realized that a lot of the acted upon lust comes from the mind of a young man trying to prove himself to other men, trying to give value to himself and trying to act all macho and prove himself. And sadly, this is how a lot of the men of today try to prove their masculinity, by uncaringly fucking and dumping women. But even in those situations, there was always something more. I mean, at least for me, I always felt something for those women. The uncaring part seemed to be too much of an active process for it to be real. But let's assume for once that your uncaring part, if you do have it, went away for a woman. Maybe she held out a bit longer, maybe she said all the right things, maybe she just looks a lot like the woman you want in your life. Maybe just maybe you were tired of wearing a mask and you decided to let it go, and you trusted this woman with your real self. Maybe you simply needed someone that would understand your insecurities and know your real self. And since the feminine is socially linked to insecurities and weaknesses, I mean, what better person to show someone that you also have a human side as well? I think from the beginning, you have all been trying to shed your ego, and you have all tried to feel real again. You were brainwashed from the beginning to believe that only a woman can understand the real you. However, as men, we all share similar insecurities and we all share similar experiences, and we all wear all but two similar masks. Yet we all believed that the other man in front of us was the mask that was talking to us, and we were all unable to connect with that man. That is, in my opinion, one of the biggest achievements of feminism. The achievement was to teach every man that another man will never understand you, but a woman would, and she could. So following the lust in every relationship, then comes the love that we all assume is not true. I have long disagreed with MGTOW members that claim that women do not possess the ability to love, and I would lay it out here again. Women love truthfully within the capabilities of their biology. I mean, when a man and a woman fall in love, I mean, just pay close attention and see how both sexes interact. A man wants to take care of the people he loves, and a woman wants to please the people she loves, right? I mean, that is a common misconception. A woman wants to pay the person she loves, and the value she considers that feeling she experiences inside of her in being. When a man loves, it takes place as a love like the one stated in the book, a love that fills his entire being, a love that is uncompromising, and a love that doesn't change unless something really severe happens that messes with his sense of morality and the way that he sees the world and how he believes the world functions. So a man will end up loving someone that will abuse him emotionally because in his mind the world functions exactly like that and his emotions don't really matter. And if the man continues to experience love, he will continue to protect and provide for this woman, especially when there is children involved in that relationship as well. This idea of uncompromising love, the man has actually projected towards his female partners over the years and over the length of human history. This male love has created poems that speak about love and the power of love. And because men think that when a woman says "I love you," that love is without any conditions, that love is as real as his love, then he falls under the illusion that in thinking that someone who is so different, physically at least to him, loves him for who he is. But a woman doesn't love like this. A woman loves very differently. Right here I'm gonna take a small break and talk about something else because it ties very well in what we're talking about. We spoke hypergamy in other videos, and just look for those videos in my channel. That is the thing that doesn't speak to the sexual strategy of a woman, but rather talks to the attraction a woman might feel towards a man. I have completely revised my opinion on this. Hypergamy, I mean, it is the equivalent to the male imaginary boner that a man gets when he sees a female that is everything he wants in a woman. That means boobs, ass, face, waist. I mean, that is how we all operate. That's what first attracts us to another human being. That's how our boners at least operate when we don't know someone. And a woman's hypergamy operates in the same manner. It acts on one subject, and I think that subject is gain. And the gain is personal. Previously, in my previous video, I mentioned that a woman's attraction is status, money, and looks, and I guess that matters when you compare like to like. When it comes to the primary objective though, the primary objective is simply status. A status is what provides protection. And status in today's society is simply money and fame. Muscles and looks only make a difference when people are comparing like to like. But a woman with no status and looks will almost always be attracted to a man with much more money or fame when compared to her. Attraction, of course, does not necessitate any action or attraction from the part of a man. A man will be quote-unquote cuter than how he was previously assumed to be as soon as a woman realizes his fame and money potential. There is of course exceptions to everything, but I so far have not met a single woman that meets that exception. Money achieves status once money is appreciated, meaning of course that a woman needs to understand that a man has money, and displays of social status can be in the form of cars, land, clothes, I mean anything that's material. And if the dating scene is outside in the clubs and bars, good clothes, an expensive car, the drinks that you choose to drink, displays that status to that woman. And additionally, the way and manner in which a man carries himself shows where he stands in society. These are all cues that women pick up, and these are all cues that the pickup artist community is teaching men to emulate. So why does that all play into love? I mean, I believe if you understand the attraction, you will also understand the object of the affection. The woman will fall in love of the image of you, the image that you portray to the outside world. She falls in love with the status and your influence and the social standing that you have on society, and as such, the life that a man can provide. While for us, the operating mode in a relationship is to provide and protect, the operating mode for a female in a relationship is rather passive, and it's that to be protected and provided. And her only participating part towards her man is the pleasing part. I mean, sure, a woman can go to work, but if work and career were that much more important to women, a lot more women would not turn part-time as soon as they formed a family. You see, the provision, innately speaking, for both men and women is understood to be the role of the man. A woman in love with you, however, will try to please you in the coin she feels your protection and provision is worth. That is an abstract concept, but one that I believe is true. If a woman is with a man that she never thought she would acquire, she will do anything to please him. She would have all the kinky and weird ass sex. She will do all the freaky shit, and she will actually love it. A woman will care. She will love you and she will please you, but she will never sacrifice for you. Whereas the male role traditionally has been completely different. A man will provide and protect to the manner in which he feels he gained in terms of looks and how much he gets pleased. And if you feel this relationship is not understood at the basal level, you're completely wrong. A man will go out of his way in order to provide something new for his woman when he feels she's not pleased enough, in the hope that that woman will reciprocate that display of love in kindness. Where this is wrong is that a woman needs to feel she's secured in status, and that is shown in terms of not giving a shit because you actually have options, because you do feel secure, because nothing can alter your sense of self, not even when a woman complains. And as long as she doesn't have the upper hand in a relationship, meaning that you're free to go anytime you please and you're not married, a display of true and honest indifference creates this love and attraction for a woman because that proves to her of your established status. And if you noticed here, I talked about the coin that a woman pays a man with, and I have in essence suggested that a woman pays a man with her pussy. Women understand this, and men also understand this. But in MGTOW we have also suggested that there is another part of the interaction with a woman, something that we called male mother need. The need of a man to be loved, to be understood, to be accepted and appreciated for who he is. He wants to feel loved and cherished in an uncompromising manner, such as how he felt with his mother. And I believe this concept is actually a lot more important than the love that he might feel he might get. And when he believes he is getting that emotion satisfied, it is as if he loses a huge part of his life during the breakup. The difference between men and women is that for many men, a breakup of a serious relationship feels like a very important person in their lives has actually died. For a woman it feels painful, but the pain does not last necessarily as much. And the pursuits and the way in which a woman suffers is completely different to that of a man. A man misses the person in their life and the closeness within that person, and cries for how he couldn't please and cherish his princess. He feels the absence of a very important and loving person in his life, his, after all, adopted mother, who he held and loved and cherished and protected, and he equally felt protected, and felt that his role as a man finally had a meaning. Differently, for a woman the breakup is not such a big thing, and usually the pain is focused mostly on herself. If the breakup is painful and the moving on part is painful, that lies on simply the fact that she has not yet found a suitable partner, or her life is not as enjoyable as it once was. Where for a man it is loss and mourning, for a woman it is lack of enjoyment and pleasure, uniquely arising from a deep sense of dissatisfaction with her lonely existence. Women, after all, have never learned to live as lone wolves, and in the desperation of their loneliness without a man, she will take any man who is close to something that she deems acceptable, just so that she doesn't feel lonely anymore. And that man will end up being hurt. But in the light of MGTOW, where does love lie? I mean, I have talked with a couple of MGTOWs recently and we discussed love quite a bit. Other than the obvious indication that men, especially young men, we are in love with the idea of love, I want to touch on the question that some of the men have been asking me about love. I get a lot of brothers asking me very direct questions about this, and I try to give them all the same answers, that basically the choice whether you want to love a woman or not is yours. But I also want to share my 2 cents about what I do and how I feel about this. I have personally never been more pleasantly intoxicated, high and completely aware. Never felt more pleasure and happiness than when I was in love. I know those were the chemicals in my brain, but the reality that those neurotransmitters created for me was very much real. The lack of that love felt like death to me, but growth and understanding from my part has shown me that nothing actually dies suddenly, unless, it occurs by accident and that person has died. And the end of my relationships has never been that sudden end. Now, understanding the previous statement, understanding that love can be intoxicating and an all-encompassing feeling, that leads us to the question at hand of whether we should fall in love or not. I mean, we're MGTOW. We believe the truths that we believe in about the nature of women, etc. So should we fall in love? I don't know. I mean, I don't have an answer to give to you guys. I cannot really look to you with a definitive belief, in my opinion, in order to tell you that yes, you should fall in love, and no, you shouldn't fall in love. I'm very much aware of the dangers at hand. However, as you may have understood, I don't really mind danger. Not in this sense. I always take risks and I always try to enjoy myself. I believe that somewhere within me, there still lies this ability to love a woman, though it has not happened since my last breakup over 2.5 years ago. But I know the feeling, and I know how that feeling feels like a drug, and I do miss that feeling. Now, I am convinced in my ability to control the effects of the drug, but I'm not sure whether I can actually do it if it actually ever occurred to me again. I don't know if I'm going to be able to stay strong on my beliefs for too long, and that's because I remember the effect that love had in my brain. And I believe, above love and pleasure, there needs to be a point where you know the risks involved and you're able to do your own risk assessment. MGTOW has no place to tell you whether you should love a woman again or not, whether you should have a relationship again or not. Looking within you will give you that answer. All I'm going to say is that personally for me, having now experienced disappointment and depression as well, especially as a result of lost love, I would have wanted to experience that love again. And I know how that sounds. And I believe if I were younger, I would have needed to experience that almost surreal experience again. But I'm not as young as I once was, and I need to take care of myself a lot more than I once had to. Therefore, it is up to you, my brothers, what you do with this. But let's now move on to something else, the last part of the video, the part that I call hate. That part that happens when the relationship invariably and inevitably ends. The hate between the two sides and how it is displayed, and I will try to lay down some groundwork here. A woman might cheat on you. A woman might sleep with your best friend. A woman can actually have an orgy in your bedroom. A woman can destroy your car. A woman might abuse you and might even abuse your children. And she might do all that just to take revenge from you because she feels she wasted her time, because she sees you as not worthy of her affection anymore, and she feels secure in her protection either from state or that new boyfriend that she has. But let's focus on the actions. And what do these actions mean for this woman? Do these actions make a woman evil? I know that the vast majority of you would say that yes, those actions make that woman evil, but I will argue that those actions do not make a woman evil. The woman is not evil, but rather her actions are. And who is controlling the woman's actions other than her? And don't say society. It is her. She is the only one with control over her actions. When this hate occurs, and it occurs inside of you too, you will not go down and kill someone because you have long learned to control those urges. Because you fear repercussions. And females face no repercussions. I mean, we all know that. But if I told you that you would face no repercussions no matter what you did, you wouldn't go around killing anyone. Especially just because you didn't like them. The actions that each woman takes as a result of hate are premeditated decisions that she's acting on. For females, the hate is not reactionary, but it is rather calculated. And a lot of men have learned that the hard way. And as a result, the assumption is that women are dangerous by nature. And I think women have a lot more capability of evil acts as a result of their hyper-emotional, at times, existence and the allowance that society gives them. But I do not believe women are evil inherently. Part of that is my philosophical position on that in itself most actions are grey. They're neither black nor white. They're neither bad nor good. However, most actions a person takes, they take under the prerequisite that in themselves that action might feel good, that in themselves that action is just, such as the act of revenge, and vengeful acts may help a woman actually feel better. And I think that those acts actually do make a woman feel better. And studies have suggested that in relationships a woman's happiness must be above that of her man for the relationship to work. But one-upping you in terms of revenge, she may actually be trying to feel a lot happier than she was before. Hypergamy may be at play when she's fucking your richer friend, but the decisions to act on her instincts are hers and hers alone. The actions that she takes to destroy your house and business and stealing your children away she doesn't take because of lack of repercussions, but rather it is a conscious decision that she takes in order to hurt you. It is revenge. It is vengeful. And revenge it is because she hates you. She knows that if she has no one better and you're failing in your life and she's not happy with what she has right now, or her image of what you were was wrong, then she will hate you for it. She will feel used. She will start acting out like a child. She will feel that she has lost years of her life. And who you are right now, or who you ended up being, would have never been attractive to her before, as you are no longer the human doing that she envisioned. The same may apply to you, but you have long learned to accept the consequences of your decisions. And she didn't have to. There was always someone to bail her out. And for some time there will always be someone to bail her out, but it will never be that someone that could have been before. And that's why women say that they have wasted the best years of their lives with losers. Because what you are is no longer good enough for her. Who you are has never mattered, really. You were never seen as human, even when you tried to be human. That never really registered with her, and that's because of her nature and the subject of her affection, like we talked about before. With you, she wasted the most valuable resource available to her, her youth. For her, time means resources. It means a free ride in life, and when that very important resource is taken away from her by yourself, because that's how she sees it, she hates you for it. For you, the most important resources is your financial situation, but for her it's her looks, because as long as a beautiful woman has her looks, she will never starve and she will very rarely suffer. And women instinctively know this across all over the world. So they will take those evil actions against you in some kind of weird revenge fantasy where they take from you what is also equally as important: money, business, children, and home. Thinking that that would make you miserable and that would in turn make her happy. But a woman cannot truly be happy with just that because her true resource is lost. Her youth and beauty will never come back. So she will hate you, and she will continue to be evil, as a lot of the people have claimed for some time, a long time afterwards. And people say that this is happening because women needed to secure resources, etc. in the past, so they had to develop this kind of emotional pathways in the brain. People say that this is the nature of women. Perhaps in order to extract resources and secure the best mate, in order to provide and protect for children. But those attributes, even if true, even if the evolutionary psychology stands true on this, those attributes do not reflect in the selfish existence of that female. The evolutionary psychology does not account for the responses that a woman might make and how that would translate in the everyday world. Looking at female hate through the male lens comes across as quite evil, but for her, it is justified. Actions of male hate will include causing bodily harm and withdrawal of resources so that he causes damage, but that is not effective because either a woman has found someone else or the state has forced you to continue to provide for her, and there is so many policemen that will never allow you to cause her any physical harm even if you actually wanted to, and I'm quite sure close to 100% of men would not do that even if given the opportunity. And that doesn't mean that I excuse female behavior. I especially do not excuse it because in my head, women know what they're doing, and they know what they're doing is wrong. They know that what they're doing is causing harm and pain to another human being, and yet they do it with premeditation and planning to ensure that their actions will cause you maximum pain at 100% of the times that they do it. In fact, they act like this because they can abuse you and hurt you, and that in turn may give them some pleasure, that may in turn make them feel better for wasting their valuable time with you. Time that you have in plenty, whereas she only has in little supply. So no, my brothers, the selfish acts, the evil acts, the premeditated planning in making sure that those actions hurt and destroy cannot be excused by any excuse that has to do with female nature or lack of social repercussions. Those acts should be faced and addressed as they are, the actions of a desperate human being, seeing her inevitable conclusion as a non-influential person to that man's life. The actions of a woman that was once beautiful and perky and is now going to be overlooked by the rest of society. They are the actions of a miserable human being that, in their pursuit to ensure her happiness, destroys the happiness of everyone around her. But they are the actions of that one human being and not the actions of all females put together. Therefore, we cannot afford to generalize. We cannot afford to state that all women do evil acts. We cannot say that it is in their nature to do evil acts. It's certainly in their nature to cause more harm than men do emotionally. And women act in the way that society permits them to. So I believe, given that this seems to be a lot more common nowadays, if you wish to engage with them in a sexual relationship, be prepared for when the relationship ends and the hate of a woman, especially a woman who is no longer as young as she once was, and how that hate can descend upon you, and it can really harm you, and it can really burn you. That's all I had to say on this subject, and I know this is a very long video, but I wanted to make sure that we understand the nature of our interactions with women and how these interactions are quite different for the opposite sex. We're a dimorphic species, and men are seeing the world quite differently when compared to women, and we cannot expect our responses and the way that we see the world and our morality to have developed in exactly the same way. I'm not giving women excuses, and I'm definitely not giving them a pussy pass or a nature pass or any kind of pass for that matter. I do not think that it's because of society that women are like this, but definitely with the freedom that exists in today's society, they're more likely to be themselves. So I believe what's important in MGTOW is to understand all these things and understand how everything interplays together and what are the risks involved, especially if we are to engage in a relationship with a woman, or if we are to engage in a sexual, casual relationship with a woman. All these things are very important. We need to understand the object of our affection and the objects of a female affection, and understand how that plays into love, and how that plays into the lust, and how that eventually plays into hate, and why we as men see those actions as evil, and why women see the actions of their hate as justified. I hope this lengthy video has made some sense. Thank you very much for listening. This was Nikuchowski talking about all things man. Please like, share, and of course subscribe to my channel for more updates.